You know who would probably make a pretty good tight end? Troy Andersen.
You couldn't resist. Oh my gosh. We're going to be talking. Let's see if we can fit Troy Andersen in every position group on the Bobcats. Oh my gosh. Welcome everybody to the R&R Catcast, a special off-season offensive edition. I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Ryan. How you doing today, Thorny?
Pretty good. Yourself, Ryan?
Oh, not bad on this cold night, but we're not that cold compared to most places around the United States. So over here in Eastern Washington, we're probably above average, I suppose.
Well, I did hear a coworker talking today about the potential snow that's going to move into our area, like 3 inches of snow, and she was telling her boss that if it snows, she's not coming to work. So that's how my part of the country deals with any poor weather.
Did like your Montana blood just start to boil a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I saw a meme that was like Canada, basically like Principal Skinner leaning back with a Canada hat, and the rest of the country complaining. It's just like pathetic. Like that's pretty much how I feel anytime I hear anyone say anything about it's 20 degrees, negative 20 degrees. Like, should we even go outside? Like, that's what block heaters are for. You start your car, you scrape your window, you go to work.
You don't complain.
You don't complain. You scrape and hopefully you don't slip.
So, true story. One day I was, I lived in Great Falls for a long time. We had like minus 30 not too far back. It was, a couple years back. Anyways, my truck would not start. I got bundled up in my ski gear and rode my bike to work that day.
Yeah. That's what we do.
You got to do what you got to do. I got to work all sweaty. I was like, you never thought you would ride your bike in 30 below. Nonetheless, sweat while doing so, but it happens, I suppose.
I ended up selling my last car I drove in Montana, and the guy was like, "Why is there a cord hanging out your grill?" I was like, "Dad, don't worry about it. You're not. Don't even just tuck it in."
Yeah. Anyways, well, tonight we thought we'd just talk about the offensive side of the ball for the Bobcats. Break down the positions and the guys who are going to be playing or projected to be playing, and just give our thoughts based off of that. And again, just from the fans' perspective, not from any kind of professional perspective, but just our musings,
as we often do.
Oh yeah! But first, we're going to start off with what we're drinking.
Speaking of cold ones,
you got it, man. I have a beer tonight. Sierra Nevada Hazy Little Bean IPA. I know you probably won't like that.
It sounds trendy.
This is very trendy. It's very delicious though too. Yeah, I like most Sierra Nevada beers. So when this came out this fall, late summer, picked up a 12-pack. I was very pleased. So my wife got some for the Super Bowl party. She's probably upset that I'm dipping into them prior to, but that's just going to be what it's going to be.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm a Rams fan, so I'm pretty excited here.
Well, yeah, you should be. As a Bengals fan. Yeah, as a Bengals fan, when I was a little boy, I remember the Bengals went to the Super Bowl back when like Ickey Woods was doing his shuffle. But man, it's been tough sledding for me.
Ickey Woods, man. I'm pretty sure I have like a football card with Ickey Woods.
Between the Cats and the Bengals, they both went to the Super Bowl kind of around, or the Super Bowl. National championships.
Super Bowls.
Yeah, right. Kind of around that same era. I mean, a little bit earlier for the Cats, but I need a win in my life with some of my teams. So hoping these next 5 to 10 years will treat me a little bit better.
Yeah, somehow the Rams had like the second worst record in the 90s. They would have had the worst record in the 90s if they had not had that 1999 season out of nowhere. They would have been the losingest NFL team in the 90s. And then they had about 4 good years, and then they turned into complete sucks again. So I'm pretty excited to see him back. And to round about to the whole point here, I'm drinking a Boundary Bay Irish Red, a delicious red beer from the folks up at the Boundary Bay up in Bellingham, Washington. It's delicious. I don't know if it's a good winter beer. I don't know. I don't really have seasonal beers. I just drink whatever beer I feel like drinking.
That's a good way of going about it. All right, well, let's get down to business, man. So
let's do this.
We're just going to cover each of the positions, talk about the players in that position, and just kind of our thoughts on those players. So,
let's do it.
Let's start with the quarterbacks.
All right. What do you think?
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there. You just want me to go ahead and read off who we have and kind of go from there?
You do that with the quarterbacks, and I'll take the next one. Let's just kind of go that way. So you can read off the list here.
Okay, sounds good. So in the stable right now, we got Casey Bowman, who's a 6'6", 225 freshman this year. Will be a redshirt freshman next year if he doesn't play. Travis Johnson, a 6'2", 210 junior. Tucker Rovig, a 6'5", 205 redshirt freshman. Ruben Beltran, a 6', 180 freshman, and Troy Andersen at 6'5", 215. Of course, all those people will, their class will go one up. So they won't be the freshmen that I just said, but a good group of guys in there. I think we're looking for Tucker Rovig to be kind of that 1A guy out of that group. I know when we were looking at our recruiting class this year, we didn't really sign a true quarterback. Unless you count the guy from Great Falls High, Blake Thielen.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to sit in the quarterback room or if he'll just be kind of like more of an athlete for the Cats, but
hard to say.
Yeah, I know. By all means, Choke came out at the very end of the season saying, Tucker Rovig's kind of a man on fire right now, man on a mission. And that's what I was hoping to hear. I think between him and Bauman, those are going to be our 1A, 1B. And then, of course, how did I forget Chris Murray? Chris Murray's back in the fold. It'll be really interesting to see where that projects him in that mix. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first, I'm hoping that 2 guys you listed off aren't in the true conversation, and I'm sure you just said them because they're technically on the roster, but like Travis Johnson, and I'm hoping Troy Andersen's. I hope both those guys are just not quarterbacks next year, and particularly Troy. But we'll certainly see a healthy dose of, I think, Johnson at quarterback, but in like a wildcat capacity. But Chris Murray back into the mix definitely throws a wrinkle into things. I don't really know what to make of that. I don't know if he's going to come back in shape. I don't know if he's been working out. I don't know if he's been throwing the ball around. I have no idea what he's been up to, what kind of football shape he's in, but it's going to be interesting to see because I definitely wouldn't rule that kid out. You don't win the starting job as a partway through your true freshman season as a 17-year-old kid. I know there wasn't a whole lot of options, but if you're not a gamer, you're not even there. So,
well, that's true. I saw him on the Bobcat Instagram feed last week, so he is working out with the team during the winter conditioning drills. So,
okay,
he has contact with the team. He was on that feed. So, yeah, so he's part of it. So we'll see where he goes in. He was supposed to be the guy last year, and then it came out. His grades suffered, and Tucker Rovig got hurt, and I mean the whole thing was fully documented. But man, yes. I still think Tucker Rovig. I think it's Tucker Rovig's job to lose. So
I agree, and he could certainly lose it. But I love to hear that he's a man on fire. I just think he has the tools to be a successful quarterback in the Big Sky Conference. He's got the height. He's got some speed. No, he's not Chris Murray or Troy Andersen, but he's not Jack Rolovich back there. I mean, he can run. He's got, he can see over a height advantage that a lot of guys don't have. And I mean, I just think he throws a good ball. I think he throws a nice spiral, and I just like to see him get in there and make some plays. Just to get his confidence is his biggest problem. And I know we've talked about this before. Choate's management of a guy like Tucker, who, all right, he's in the game, he has a few nice series, and then we bring in like Travis Johnson. And I know you have some issues with that. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it seems like for Rovig specifically, he was more of a momentum guy. Like in the few times we got to see him play, he really flourished in the game. He was our starter. And who were we playing that day?
When he was starting?
Yeah, when Rovig came in and he was our starter that whole day.
Oh, Wagner?
Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't remember that, but yeah, Wagner. Followed that up. I think it was the Idaho State game. No, not the Idaho State game. I'm fumbling over my games now. Anyway, yeah. He comes in. Troy Andersen starts, which we were all really baffled by. And there's serious talk on the board that week of, why would we go with Troy Andersen when Rovig just had over 300 yards passing, multiple touchdowns? By all means, we looked like an offensive revelation, as some of the reporters were saying. So, easily just ruined his confidence there because I just remember like being so in tune and watching him and just like his body language, and then he would come in for a series, and then they would pull him and they put Troy back in, and you just look at him and he was just visibly upset, and I don't think they did a good service to Tucker right there. I think that was a pivotal moment in our season, honestly. I mean, we ended up having a pretty good season for all, accounts and purposes, but, not to go with Tucker at that point was, in my opinion, a big mistake. And I think we could have had similar success that we had even in the later part of the season, still with Rovig. But then, he breaks his foot, and you play the game of what if after that. And so it's just disappointing and just kind of a sour taste in my mouth.
I agree. And he definitely is a guy you don't want to, if he makes a few nice passes, don't take him out. I would love to see more Johnson or maybe Murray this year, whoever come in at Wildcat. You just got to be smart when you do it. But I'm really excited to see what like Johnson can do in the same formations that he was in this year. If there's a quarterback who's starting, who's playing 95% of the snaps, who can throw the ball down the field. Because when he came in, he was pretty effective, but he was spelling a guy who was marginally better passer than he himself is. So the defense is already keyed to stop a running quarterback. So you bring in Travis Johnson. There's another guy who's going to run the ball. But if you got a guy like a Bauman, or is it Bowman or Bauman?
I think it's Bowman.
Bowman, okay. Bowman, if you got Bowman or Rovig in there who can throw the ball 50, 60 yards down the field and connect on those passes, and the defense is catered to that, then Travis Johnson coming in, or Chris Murray, is going to be really effective out of that Wildcat spot, because both those guys are electric.
Well, absolutely. And with more of a traditional passer, we utilize more of our weapons. I mean, when we had Troy Andersen as our quarterback, we weren't utilizing our weapons on the outside or slot receivers to any kind of capabilities that they would possess. They mainly became just, blockers for us. And so it just seems silly to me that, our net gain is so much better when we have Tucker Rovig or a traditional passing quarterback. And I know I'm probably taking some heat on that because, Troy Andersen was a first team All-American, but in still my account, not a quarterback.
Agreed. It's like they created a spot for him because, like, how could we keep this guy off? I guess we'll put him at quarterback. But it'll be interesting to see. I would love a formation with Chris Murray under center, and behind him are Travis Johnson and Troy Andersen. Because Chris Murray runs like the option better than any quarterback on the roster. Easily, like by a significant better than anyone, arguably in the country that at least isn't at like Cal Poly or a triple option school. So then you get three guys that are all 6'2", anywhere between like 210 and 225, who all are insanely fast. That's pretty scary. And then they can all, quote, throw, end quote.
Yeah, right? I don't know. I really want to see us push the ball down the field through the air this year.
I do too.
Just have a nice balance, And that Wagner game it felt like that. It felt like that for the first time in, quite a few years. So I want that feeling back. I want that to be our offense. And so I'm excited to see what Matt Miller can dial up for us. I want to see the battle that takes place between Bowman and Rovig and Murray. If Murray has the ball skills and the passing skills, let's go with Murray. But we need to move away from the run first mentality with our quarterbacks. Not necessarily offensive identity, but we need to be able to be prolific in the passing game as well as the running game.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I just say don't sleep on Murray because he's by far at least the third best passer on the team, but I don't think he's too far behind those other guys if he's done any work. So Anyway, I think Rovig, it is his job to lose, and no matter who wins between him or Bowman, I think we're in good shape. Even if it's Chris Murray, I'm guaranteeing we'll throw the ball more than we did, and more successfully than we did this year.
Yep, I agree.
Alrighty, that is the quarterback log jam. Please don't let Troy Andersen be part of that discussion. All right.
I'm going to challenge you, Thorny, not to talk about Troy Andersen in every position group that we will go through today.
Challenge rejected.
All right.
There's only one position I won't talk about him at. Okay, maybe three. Maybe three.
You can't talk about him in the next position group, and that would be our running backs. So in the running back room right now, we have Carl Tucker, a junior from Great Falls, CMR, my alma mater. We have Isaiah Infante, a true freshman. Will be a true sophomore from your neck of the woods over in Western Washington, right?
Bellevue, yeah. That's a big-time program. Big-time program.
There you go. We have Lane Sumner. I don't know where Lane's from. He'll be a sophomore next year.
I want to say Huntley Project, somewhere thereabouts.
There you go. Tyrell Burgess from the state of Florida. He'll be a junior. Logan Jones coming back for his fifth year, senior out of Kalispell. Blake Allred, who is a fullback. RJ Fitzgerald, another fullback. He'll be a junior. And Shaden Perry, 5'9", 180, redshirt freshman. I can't remember where Shane's from, but he did get a couple touches late in the season. Specifically, I think his only touches came in Incarnate Word.
Yeah, yeah, he had like maybe one or two runs. Maybe he caught a ball out of the backfield. I don't remember. I might be thinking of Coy Steele. But did you mention Justin Colley?
I didn't. He was on my list, but is he still on the team?
As far as I know. The only guy that I know that isn't on the list anymore is Malik Barkley.
Malik Barkley and then Tyler Nate.
Yeah, Tyler Nate, yeah.
There we go.
Retired. And Malik Barkley, he just seemed like he was going to be such a good addition. His tape looked good. He looked good in fall camp. All you ever heard was couldn't really get the playbook down, and then he kind of didn't hear anything about him at all. Now he's just gone. So best of luck wherever he goes. I'm not sure the situation was there. Interesting to see how this transfer portal is going to play out. He was before the portal, I think, but it's just got a lot more to talk about on that front. And then did you mention the two signees that we have coming in?
Did not mention any signees.
Because you never know. I don't really see anyone in this room getting time as a true freshman because we're pretty deep. But we got Demarius Hosey from Texas somewhere. Do you know where in Texas?
Justin,
Texas. He's just in Texas. And then we got Joe Olson from Bozeman. They're both pretty much 6 foot 195, right? Pretty much the same size.
Yep.
A little bit different running styles, but similar in some ways. So I'm pretty excited about those two. I think those are two good signees. I think Isaiah Fonse is going to get the load. I think it's going to be Logan Jones. And I just want to applaud everyone involved, Logan Jones, Jeff Choate, anyone else that was involved in the decision to redshirt at the end of the year last year. Because he could have came back and played. Was it the playoff game? Like, was it both, or was it just the North Dakota State game? I think it was the Incarnate Word game. He didn't play in that game.
Yeah.
So he sat out the first playoff game that the Cats have had in a few years, just so he could redshirt and come back for his senior year. So that's props to him, and it's going to be awesome to have him back because I think honestly we're going to need him, and it's also going to be pretty interesting to see how Troy Andersen fits into this mix. What are you looking to see out of? I think we know what we're getting with the first two, but what are you looking to see in terms of like how often and how we utilize Troy on offense? I guess in general, but I assume it's going to be at running back.
It's tough because Troy had 21 touchdowns last year. He was our leading rusher. And so a large part of me says, that guy has to touch the ball. But at the same time, I would love to see Troy touch the ball about, quarter of the times he did last year, and just in general. I would prefer him to be mostly a defensive player for us. I think we have the players in the backfield that can mimic the production Troy would give us from the offensive side of the ball.
I think we can maybe replace it, but mimic it. Honestly, I would like to see us be a little less explosive. That sounds kind of counterintuitive, but we can't just be a only Troy 70-yard touchdown team.
Yeah,
we gotta be able to score some points. They can be long touchdowns, but we need to be able to sustain drives. We what did you say at one point? We had like one of the worst third down offenses in the conference.
Oh yeah.
So a lot of that is we can't throw the ball. A lot of it was getting ourselves into third and longs. What's the percentage?
We were 34%.
Yeah.
58 out of 172, which is not quite 34%. That's pretty bad.
Where's that put us in the conference? Do you know?
I don't know.
It's got to be bottom third at worst. But yeah, I know we were also bottom in like first downs. So a lot of that is going to be the running backs consistently getting yardage, consistently getting 4 or 5 yards a carry. Because I know we've averaged that before, and I don't know what we averaged last year. But if you take out Troy Andersen, I'm curious to know what we actually averaged from our running backs. But if we have a quarterback who can throw the ball, should be a little bit more room for the running backs to run.
Yeah.
So I think Afonso is going to be good. I'm also curious to see if we use R.J. Fitzgerald as a fullback or anybody as a fullback.
I hope so. I would assume we would because that was pretty prevalent in our offense this year. Curtis Amos did a great job filling in that fullback position.
Would you classify that as a fullback or like, what do they call it? The H-back now?
Yeah.
I guess he didn't really catch any balls, which is a hallmark of like an H-back, but.
Yeah, that strategic. No, we're not going to talk about that.
Much respect, Curtis. We're not going to bring it up here for you. Save you.
Where do you think Carl Tucker and a guy like Tyrell Burgess fit in next year?
Burgess, I think, probably needs to prove he can hold on to the ball a little bit more, but he is definitely an X factor. He is like a Swiss Army knife kind of guy who you can run him out of the backfield on a swing pass. You can just give it to him. He can run between the tackles a little bit. He's got a lot of speed. He's got a lot of moves. You saw it. Perfect example of everything I just talked about on his like lone run in the playoff game against Incarnate Word, where he had like a 40-yard scamper, looked great, looked just like a whole different guy than anyone else we had on the roster, and he fumbled it.
I know.
It was like, oh yeah.
Do you remember watching that play and be like, "Whoa, what was that?" Like that's a different speed we haven't seen yet this year. And then you're like,
Logan Jones is fast, but that's like a different level. Like I think Choate refers to Burgess as you can't tackle him in a phone booth kind of guy. So it'll be interesting to see how we use him. I imagine we'll try and get him anywhere between like 5 and 10 touches a game. I would maybe less. I don't know. Maybe 5. Carl Tucker, I just don't know. I don't really know why he doesn't get more touches. He doesn't seem to do anything spectacular. Doesn't seem to screw up. He just kind of there for depth. I don't really know. I'd like to see. I think he's capable of doing more, but I just don't know if he'll get the opportunity.
Maybe Burgess could be the guy that could return some kicks for us. If he catch the ball.
If he can catch the ball, yeah. I mean, I guess who was on kickoff returns last year?
It seems like Cassis is our guy back there, and then we had another guy that I can't remember right now. You know what? I can't remember, but Kevin Cassis is our go-to.
Yeah, and I definitely want him on punt returns because first and foremost, you want the guy to catch the ball. Do you remember? You remember that year that? Oh my gosh, what is Travis Lulay's younger brother's name?
Tyler
Lulay. He was that kind of guy. He was like the unspectacular guy on the team. And I remember we had a huge problem that year he was playing on fielding punts. So they just brought in Lulay. And he just pretty much just caught the ball the whole time and didn't hardly return anything. It's like, just get in there and catch the ball. Yeah. So that's but Cassis brings both elements to that because he is shifty. He just doesn't have quite that breakaway speed, but he can get you 20, 30 yards easy.
Yeah. Good point.
He could break one. He just doesn't quite have that breakaway speed.
No.
Sidebar: how fun was Sean Johnson to watch? That guy was fun to watch.
If you had to pick Sean Johnson or Corey Smith, where are you going on that one?
That's a tough call. You gotta like Corey Smith just for his Cat Grizz heroics, but Sean Johnson, for my money, was probably my favorite offensive player to watch. Running back with, like, just in general, guy touching the ball carrier we've had since I've been a Cat fan.
I'm gonna go Corey Smith.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that. Those are both good choices. I think didn't Sean Johnson have like three or four punt returns called back in his career too for holding?
That wouldn't surprise me.
He had like two like back-to-back games. I remember he was just, and they weren't even like affecting the play. Anyway, we're going way off on a tangent here. So I think it's going to be a solid group. I don't know if that. I've heard some people talk about that Schneider kid who transferred in from Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
For him, Seth Schneider. I've heard some people project he might switch to running back. He's like 5'9", 200 or something like that. So I'm not sure if he'd fit in here or not. Yeah, I think it's going to be a good group. And I think cool. Afonso is going to run for easily 1,000, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jones runs for 600.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Troy Andersen will run for 500 on 20 carries.
Okay.
He'll run for 500 on 0 carries. That's Troy Andersen.
We'll
go the Chuck Norris jokes here. All right. Let's talk about wide receivers.
Whew. All right, let's run down the list.
Troy Andersen is not going to be a wide receiver.
Nope.
There, I said it.
So we have some shakeup today with Kobe DeRue leaving. That was announced tonight, and then earlier on,
breaking news.
Yeah, Mekhi Metcalf. So two of the names on the list will not be there. Both were true freshmen last year. So we'll see how that pans out.
Who was all on that class? Do you remember that wide receiver class? Because that's 2 wide receivers from one class is usually a big chunk. Who do you have as freshmen? I have Tanner Trafford and Jaden Smith. No, those are signees. Red shirts. Logan Kleinhaus, Mark Estes, and Kobe Duru and Mekhi Metcalf. So, yeah, half the room's gone, right? Half the signees.
Yeah.
All right. Carry on.
So we got a guy named James Campbell who's been making some splashes. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Willie Patterson. Yeah, he'll be one of the older guys in the group. He will be a junior next year. Devine Tulis, we don't know anything about this guy. He transferred in. He's a junior.
We can't even say his name.
Yeah, I know. He's
I can't
kind
either.
of a man of mystery. So good job, Devine. Coy Steele, who was a really good guy for us, got hurt. Looking forward to seeing him come back. We always, I put down Jabari Johnson. You never know. He might come back. Mark Estes, Logan Kleinhaus, Peyton Hanser. We'll talk about him a little bit. Of course, we can't miss Kevin Cassis, Lance McCutcheon. I think that is all. So, yeah, without naming any tight ends there, I think I covered all of our wide receivers.
So, my starting 4, I'll go with 4 starters. Kevin Cassis, Travis Johnson, Willie Patterson, Lance McCutcheon. What do you think?
Yep. I think that's pretty spot on.
Pencil it out the same way?
Yeah.
The guy whose position I would say is the most vulnerable, I guess, would be Lance McCutcheon. Unless I'm really excited to see what Travis Johnson does, committing himself to the wide receiver craft for an entire offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if he's ever even played the position before. And kudos to him for being such a high-profile guy coming in here and being a team player. He came here to play quarterback. There's no buts about that, but he took one for the team, switched to wide receiver, took some lumps, but really came on, and I think he could very well be an all-conference type receiver this year. He's the best, most athletic-looking receiver I can think of since maybe, Michael Jefferson. Maybe he's not quite as imposing as Jefferson, but he's that kind of athlete.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what he can do. Cassis, the just Mr. Reliable, do everything. He just gets better every year too. It's impressive. And then Willie Patterson was really coming on, the shiftiest one of the bunch before he got injured. And then Lance McCutcheon, just kind of the big body, do it all on the outside kind of guy, the deep threat.
I'd like to see a guy like Peyton Hanser, his tall frame, 6'4", 205, become kind of like somewhere in that mix, because we don't have a guy that has that length. With the departure of Metcalf and Drew, both long guys, maybe Jabari Johnson not coming back, that 6'4" frame on the outside could be pretty sexy target out there.
Yeah, and when I was naming off all that stuff, speaking of Peyton Hanser, I forgot, and you had mentioned Jabari Johnson. So if he's back, I think McCutcheon might lose his spot, but I also think Peyton Hanser is going to push for that spot because he is a Jabari Johnson type body. And that was such a big thing to have, because Jabari Johnson just looks like a man among boys out there. He's just a huge human being compared to the little 5'8" Big Sky corners he's going against. And then Peyton Hanser is a similar body type. So it would have been a very big blessing last year to have a guy who can go up and get the ball for a quarterback who can't really throw the ball that well. It would have been lovely. So I think one of those two guys might see some significant time. If Jabari's back, he's going to start, I would imagine. But if he's not, I think Peyton Hanser gets a lot of playing time.
Well, we got 2 guys coming in on this recruiting class. Tanner Trafton from Moosetown, 6'5", 190, and Jaden Smith, a 6'6", 190 wide receiver from Kennedale, Texas. So we got some height coming into that room.
Yeah. Yep. That's good to see. And because we're going to need it, you need some height. I think that's one of the hallmarks of an offense that we kind of want to run. If you're going to be a team that's more pound the ball to open up the deep passing game, you need some big bodies out there to do that. Whether that be blocking or just going up and getting some jump balls once in a while.
It seems like the receivers who've had success at Montana State, like 4-year success, have been very cerebral guys. If you think like not Jake Bluskin, a Tanner Bluskin, a Mitch Herbert, bigger guys, but very, like I said, cerebral. And, a guy like Tanner Trafton sticks out to me because everything I've read about this kid, from Lewistown. I mean, he's not even taking he's taking an academic scholarship. He's not even on a football scholarship. He could be one of those. He could be that next Mitch Herbert kind of guy. If he devotes himself, if he has that special skill set, which by all means it looks like he might. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what kind of pans out this fall.
Yeah, I mean, there's some talent in the room. I don't know if I'd match us up with the Easterns or the UC Davises or the Montanas of the conference, but I would say that's a good enough group for what we want to do offensively to get us well into the playoffs. So the real question isn't so much what I think of the wide receivers is who's giving the ball. They do need to get a better job of just kind of getting open, finding spots in the zone and just catching the ball when it comes their way. I know a lot of that was probably didn't get a lot of, it's hard to get into a rhythm when you only get one catchable ball a game, but, that's a big thing. Just get open, catch the ball consistently. And we got to have a guy who can just break it once in a while. We just haven't had that so long. And I think Patterson was kind of the guy who was kind of coming into that, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
So
do you want to talk about tight ends for a moment?
We lost them all.
Yeah.
They're all gone.
3 of them.
We lost 3 really good tight ends. Curtis Amos, senior from Texas. Connor Sullivan, senior from Ennis. And then Wilson Brott, who is senior from Montana somewhere. I should know that. Where's he from?
Don't know.
Billings?
That sounds right.
Yeah, just guessing. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But, he was the blocker. Connor Sullivan was kind of the athletic pass-catching guy, sort of. Also mostly just blocked. And then Curtis Amos was definitely like the guy who would block out in space. Just like you said, kind of the fullback role, just wrecked people this year. He was fun to watch.
One of my favorite players on the team.
Yep. Just a big, thick body, just mowing people over like all the time. Like anytime that they'd run that power run with like, Amos Poling and Troy Andersen going that way. It's just like, watch out.
Totally.
Some big guys coming at you. So we got a bunch of young guys behind him. Do we have anybody who's even an upperclassman at all?
Let's see. So I got Derek Snell as a freshman, Ryan Davis as a sophomore. So again, these guys will be 1 year older when they go in. We have a guy named Clark Judish as a sophomore, so he'll be a junior. And then Trayton Pickering will be a sophomore next year. And these guys all, jump off at the paper about the same. They're all 6'4", between 230 and 210. A couple of them at 220. So they got the height. They need a little bit of weight. We'll see what pans out there.
Yeah, they just need to put on a little bit of weight. For what we use for our tight ends, I'm not real concerned. We don't need that that Volek kid from Weber or the Dallas Goddard from South Dakota State. We don't need that big playmaking tight end. We just need guys who can block, unfortunately. And from what I've seen out of the recruits we have, the guys on the roster, they're all athletes and they're all good size for where they are class-wise, but they need to, I think they'll get a little bit bigger. And I'm not too worried about it, but it's definitely like an underrated, could be a concern. I'm curious to see if anyone moves over to tight end, because we have on the offensive line, there's a guy named Jarrett Kessler who I kind of caught my eye as a 6'4", 220-pound sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're 220 as a sophomore, are you going to ever get up to 280 to play offensive line?
Yeah, good point.
Maybe not. So if we need another body to come over and be a blocking guy, maybe something like that can come over there. But
sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be okay. But certainly a lot of production to replace in terms of just blocking. Not really a stat you track, but stat that's very important.
Oh yeah. All right. So
yeah, we did sign a good couple guys real quick. We did sign Ethan Bullock and Ryan Lonergan. I think Ryan Lonergan was considered one of the top recruits in the state. So I don't know if he'll crack play any time as freshmen, but we got a couple young guns in the wings too. Montana
There you go.
We always seem to get good Montana tight ends. It's been actually years and years and years of just good small town Montana tight ends playing for the Cats.
There's a guy named Bo Clark. Do you remember Bo Clark when we were going to school?
Oh, yeah.
That just popped in my brain when you were saying that. So, yeah. It's a position that Montana State has done well with. We had Bo Sandlin most recently that was the guy.
We go back just listen to all the Montana guys, what it was like. I can't remember. Brandon Bostic was a Montana guy. I think he was. You had the Big Nell kid, the older Big Nell brother. Who's that kid from Miles City? There's just so many of them. All of them are just small town guys. So I'm sure we got one on the roster here who can be the next guy.
Sure. Alrighty. So there goes our wide receivers and tight ends. And moving on to the offensive line, the big boys.
The Hogs. And we got a good group coming back.
A young group. That's for sure. This is an exciting group. I don't claim to know much about the offensive line, but when you're just going through the roster and looking at ages, heights, and weights, we have mass, we have youth, and it's just going to bode well for the next couple of years.
We have youth and experience.
Oh gosh, yeah. So let's just run through them real quick. I'll run through the names, and do you give me some thoughts on those fellas we are going to talk about? So we have Taylor Tuiasosopo. He'll be a junior. Coming in at 6'4", 314. Zach Red was a redshirt freshman this year, so he'll be a sophomore next year. 6'1", 275. Jake Sessions will be a junior next year at 6'5", 276. Mitch Brott. He will be a senior. One of our few seniors. 6'6", 290. Brody McKnight. 6'3", 295. He was a redshirt freshman this year. Connor Wood, who was a freshman All-American this year. Him and Isaiah. There's a student I teach named Isaiah Infante. Both of them had that award. So he's coming in at 6'5", 310. He was a redshirt freshman, so he'll be sophomore. Jared Kessler, as you mentioned, 6'4", 220. He'll be a junior. Denver Crone, 6'1", 265. Will be a junior. Ryan Barkley, I think I'm saying that right. 6'5", 275, a freshman. Sean Hatton, 6'5", 275, redshirt freshman. Loose kid, 6'6", 290, will be a junior. And Joe McElroy, 6'5", 255, will be a sophomore. So a pretty deep group there. Pretty young group.
Yeah, no, it's the guys that are on the starting line have been playing for a while now, like Connor Wood and Zach Red got some, especially Connor Wood got a lot of reps last year, but Red got some reps at some other spots. He'll be the center with Alex Neal graduating. I know Jake Sessions was in a big battle with Connor Wood to be that right tackle spot. Jeez, like that's the hard part I know with the offensive line to me is I don't exactly know where each guy plays, and especially when they shuffle around as they do. So, but beyond that though, yeah, there's a solid 6 guys there. But beyond that is where things kind of, we got some potential talent, we got some big bodies, but no one has really played very much. I would imagine it's going to be like Sean Hatton, Denver Crone. That's kind of the main guys that might be backing up, but that's just kind of me guessing more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that, like 7th and 8th spot?
I have no clue. I really don't. Sometimes when I think of the offensive line, these guys just kind of go in and out of my memory, like who's playing where. But if I had to guess, I'd probably say, like you said, Sean Hatton, Denver Crone are the 2 names that pop off on this list as having the size and the experience. Denver Crone's going to be a junior, so he's been around the block a couple times, and so I imagine he'd be that guy that you can just fit in there.
We did sign a couple of good-looking recruits here recently.
Good point.
Anthony Sessions. So we got Jake Session and Anthony Sessions. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
One's plural. So Anthony Sessions the second, I believe, is he from Texas?
It's called Vista Murrieta, which is, I believe, this sounds like a California place.
Yeah, so we got him, and then we got Holden Sampson and Jack Varing. So Holden Sampson's a pretty exciting prospect. I know Jack Varing is too. So that's a good group. That's a good
There's
group.
One more guy that was mentioned today on Bobcat Nation. I can't remember who it is, but we picked up another O-line recruit today.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there was another one. His Twitter had showed that he's a commit, but there hasn't been anything else besides that. But that's like his like a profile, not like a tweet.
There you go.
That's pretty official as far as it goes. I'd imagine we wouldn't be putting that out there.
Well, we're not booming anymore, so we can't even make that.
No, can we pour one out for the booms? I missed the booms already.
I know, right?
I long for just the booms in the night.
Well, I understand. Joe came out and said, people were starting to hawk him pretty much when he was booming, and then it was creating some, battles in the recruiting lines. And, he's got a good point. Less information out there, probably the better for us in the long run.
I suppose it's an interesting concept. Like if you got a boom out of a guy, a commit, like announcing that is that you just think you're going to lose him?
Well, I think it just kind of, sets the stage that, hey, we got this guy, and then maybe that guy might have not been on somebody's radar. You know what I mean? And so the coaches are scrolling Twitter and they go, well, I'm going to go look at that guy's huddle. And they're like, oh, well, I see you. It might be a Power 5 school. And you come in with a late offer, go, well, we can't offer you a starting position, or, we can't promise you much, but we saw Montana State was pretty high on you. And so it just kind of trickles down pretty much is what I'm guessing is kind of what happened.
Fair enough.
If not, like Big Sky schools, you're like, okay, Jeff just tweeted out a boom. Who is it? They figure it out, and then they go, all right, what kind of connections do we have with this kid? Do we have any ins with them? Let's start making contacts. Maybe we can steal him away from Montana State. So I guess being more silent on that front could be a little better for us, but it's definitely less exciting. So as a consumer of Bobcat football, as a fan, it sucks for us, but it's going to be all right. We're going to be okay.
I think I'll survive, but definitely the end of an era. And but in terms of offensive line, we've been booming a lot in the Idaho area.
Yeah,
it's good to see.
Even since Jeff Choate's first signing class, we got two guys right out there from Meridian, and we're continuing that pipeline. It looks good. I'm glad we have some. Some cachet down there, because it's kind of a weird spot. I used to teach down there, and when you're in that Boise metropolitan area, you're far away from a lot of other things. Boise's like its own kind of deal, and then you have Meridian, Idaho right next to it, Nampa, Idaho, and Kuna and Eagle, and all these little smaller kind of suburbs of Boise. But when you get outside of Boise proper, you're not running into a lot of population. And so it's kind of interesting. So there's a lot of good kids that come out there, but as Jeff Choate was talking about this year, it's going to be hard now that we have Idaho back into the mix, because they're going to be hitting that spot hard. And so we'll see how that will continue to go.
Yeah, Idaho's going to have to recruit a little bit more locally. I assume their budget is going to be a little reduced from the FBS footprint budget from recruiting all over the country, like guys from like Mississippi. Like you don't get those kind of guys in the Big Sky very often. But so they're going to be taking guys more in their backyard, and it's going to be more of a between Idaho State, kind of on the rise a little bit. Montana State, Eastern, and even like Weber State. That's a lot of people right around, a lot of recruiting in the same areas.
No way.
But as far as the offensive line goes, I think that's a really good line. They do need to be a little bit more push. I would put, I don't think a little bit more time in the weight room or strength training, but when they ran into defensive lines that were like elite, they really struggled with them. And I don't think it's technique so much as just strength.
Yeah.
Just need to get a little bit stronger, a little bit more weight, and I think they're going to be a top 3 Big Sky unit next year.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. All right. Well, we don't have too much more to talk about. We have on the back end special teams and long snapper. Which one do you want to cover first?
Let's save long snapper for last.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know why. Are you shuffling your notes around because of my in-game adjustment?
I am. I was like looking for my notes frantically. All right, so let's talk special teams. 3 guys that pop off. Tristan Bailey, going to be a senior for us. Jared Padmus, another senior, and Jacob Byrne, a junior. So, ironically, a very veteran group. A lot of guys who played a lot of ball for us. Some important football players right there when we're talking about guys like Jared Padmus and Tristan Bailey.
Yeah, Tristan Bailey kind of came out of nowhere, really. Like, he did not have very impressive stats out of his JC. And the only cool thing you remember signing him was like a video of him like kicking like a 7-yard field goal or something.
Mm-hmm.
But he really came and proved himself. He kind of, he had a little bit of a dip in the middle of the year and then toward the end of the year. But overall, I was pretty satisfied with the field goal performance out of him. He needs to, improve upon that a little bit. But if we roll with Tristan Bailey again next year, which obviously I think we will, I think we're going to be in pretty good hands. The thing I'm just kind of interested about is why isn't he just booting it out of the back of the end zone?
It's a good point.
Like, clearly he has the leg. I know we're trying to do the have the defense or the kick receiving team catch it for the fair catch, but our kickoff coverage was so atrocious that team stopped fair catching it because they knew that they could get better. Like, even if they took it at their own 3-yard line, they'd get to the 30 at least. So just to have Bailey just boot that back at the end zone if your kickoff coverage team can't tackle anybody. That almost cost us Cat Grizz.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out our special teams. This short kick kind of deal that we were trying out throughout the whole year, it just never made a lot of sense to me. So
yeah, special teams, like in that regard, I don't know if classify them as offense or defense, but like the not the kickers, but the actual units, they need improvement for sure. Tackling.
It's weird because that's kind of Choate's bread and butter back in the day, and so you would think that'd be one of our stronger suits.
You would think. This year was in particularly bad. So anyway, I think Bailey's going to be a good kicker, and Padnos is one of the best kickers in the conference. So we are set this year. Beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to long snapper. Two guys on our squad that were labeled long snappers. Do you know any of them?
No.
Yeah, I know, right? None of them are named Rocky Hogue anymore.
No, he was the stalwart.
We got a guy named Logan McDonald, who will be a sophomore this year, 6'1", 175. And lastly, a guy named Todd Payne, who was a freshman last year. He might be a redshirt freshman this year, not sure. 6'4", 210. So don't know too much about those guys, but would be remiss if we didn't mention them.
175. That's a small lineman, even if he's just a snapper.
Yeah.
Who's the holder? Is it Cassis?
Yep.
Yeah, he's done a great job. He reminds me of the other guy we had for a few years who was very similar, was Greibel, Mitch Greibel, because he was also the holder, I believe. So he was one of those cerebral. You say it for me. I'm not going to do it. He was
cerebral.
Smart. He was smarty pants. He was a good receiver who could also catch the snap and put it down and allow the kicker to kick it through. So I think we're in good hands snapping the ball. Just good. It's really the coverage units that need work more than anything, and Bailey to work on his consistency.
You got it. And I think that's all we had for our offensive episode right
The
there.
the one thing I do want to mention real quick, we didn't talk about when we're talking about wide receivers, is we did hire a new wide receivers coach,
Eric Frazier,
and it'll be interesting to see how that affects that room because came from northern Iowa, presumably a kind of a lateral move. So I'm kind of curious to see what that's all about. But that spot was vacant because of Miller, right?
Yeah.
So we need to hire someone. I'm just kind of curious how he came into be. I know that Choate said he kept coming back to his resume or whatever, just kept coming to the top. But I think he also maybe mentioned that they missed on a guy or two that they had at the top of the list. Did I hear that somewhere? I might be crazy.
Yeah, sorry, doesn't ring a bell. So
all right, well I'm crazy. So, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that plays out in the wide receiver room.
Well, I'm sure they're glad to have a guy. It's not pulling double duty. So as long as he's a good recruiter, these defensive back coaches, wide receiver coaches seem to be, they come and go. I think that's such a challenge at the FCS level is, having staff continuity. I think if we can develop that staff continuity, and by all means we've had, for a while, that bodes well for Montana State. So, we'll see. I'm sure he's going to do fine. So
you mentioned recruiting. That's interesting. I wonder if part of the reason is maybe trying to build some sort of connection to the Midwest, because it just seems to be the kind of offensive style that Choate likes to run, and we haven't had a lot of recruits there in a while. I know Ash was from that area. He didn't recruit there too hard. I remember J.P. Flynn was probably one of the biggest coups from that area, and then he brought Jason Diablo with him. But other than that, I don't remember a whole lot of other Midwest guys.
Nope.
Maybe who's that? Oh man, that really good safety we had. It was like initially at South Dakota State. Why can't I remember his name? Just 2 years ago.
Brian Force? Luke May?
No, just 2 years ago.
Oh, was it Luke May? Was it?
No, it's like an all-conference guy.
Yeah.
Why can't I think of his name?
Yeah, I know. I can picture his face too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think he was from Midwest. But yeah, just the point is, I wonder if we're trying to build some sort of recruiting pipeline. Just get some connections over there in some way.
Yeah.
It couldn't hurt.
I followed him on Twitter this week and he was down in Texas. So,
Frazier?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. We just offered a safety. I wonder if there's a connection there. I didn't really see where he's from. But we just saw one on the board. We just offered a guy.
So Thorny, before we wrap this up, I was reading an article about Super Bowl snacks, and they were listing like the top Super Bowl snacks. They got me thinking. When you're at a party, if you're going to a party or hosting a party, what is your least favorite Super Bowl snack?
Least favorite?
Yeah, what's like the worst?
Ugh. Well, nothing just jumps out to my mind that I can think of in terms of Super Bowl. I like a lot of food, man. I wouldn't be overweight if I didn't like most food on the planet. I'll have to think about that. Nothing. I
would go with the cheese tray.
Oh man, I love cheese. What's wrong with you?
I don't know, man. Just the cheese trays. They're just like, if they're like a mass production type of cheese tray, when like little squares, you know what I mean? The little ones. I'll pass. I would say those are probably my least favorite. That or like the veggie tray.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Anything that's remotely healthy obviously makes the list of stuff that's bad.
There you go.
I don't like badly done wings. Like just mushy. Like the fat's not crispy at all. Those are pretty gross.
Yeah. Slimy.
Yeah. No effort to like crisp them up and make them good. Just throw the frozen bag right in there. No. But, yeah, I'd still eat them though.
Well, all right. So let's wrap this up. We will have some news, and maybe by news, we'll probably have another podcast come out after signing day next week on February 6th. But till then, just hopefully you enjoyed this. You could always follow RR Catcast on Twitter at just RR Catcast. We always link our episodes to there. And then, we have like a whopping 30 some followers. It's pretty fantastic. But
we're big time.
Oh yeah, big time. So yeah, that's what's coming up. But until then, go catch this weekend. Big Brawl of the Wild.
That's right.
Cat Grizz, not Grizz Cat. Sorry.
Nope.
Gus Tutel. It's never Grizz Cat. And so Cat Grizz, and let's go get the victory there this weekend. Get that whiteout. I'm looking forward to watching it. I think it's on SWX, so I'm looking forward to watching it from Spokane.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting game, and I'll echo that sentiment. Go Cats.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.